I'm Tom. I'm 35-year-old and working in a factory. My father used to be a gang boss, so after graduating from high school, I was on the move as a gang member. However, they did not treat me leniently just because my father is the head of the clan. On the contrary, I was taught in detail about the rules and rigor of the society and many other things. About 10 years had passed since I began my life as a gang member. As a gang member, my contributions to the clan were recognized and I rose steadily through the ranks. I was told by others that if things continued as they were, I would probably take over as the head of the gang as well. However, there was also a sense of uncertainty as to whether the situation would continue or not. When I was in my 30s, I was thinking about living my life as a gang member. 6 months later, I decided to get out of the gang world. I started living as a normal person for the first time in 10 years. However, I was faced with the problem of having committed an assault. Because of that, no matter how diligently I worked wherever it may be, I was still considered as a dangerous member of the society. Simply put, I became isolated from society. It was difficult for me to open a bank account. I couldn't apply for a credit card. I couldn't sign a cell phone contract, I couldn't rent a house in my own name, and so on. I felt everything had changed when I came back to live normally in the society. Because I had been living a life as a gang member up until then, when I suddenly tried to live a normal life, it would be natural for me to lack trust, and it would be natural for me to be suspected due to my involvement with the group. It was a tough thing for me to do, but that's what kept the public order safe. Of course, I began my journey as a gang member after understanding all these. However, when I found myself in that position, it was even more difficult than I had imagined, and I became mentally ill at the time. I felt as if I were isolated from society. But, speaking for myself, I didn't want to be saddled with something like that. During those 5 years of hell, I studied for my certification and started working at the factory where I work now. The reason I started studying for my certification was very simple. That's because I had nothing to be proud of. I can say I had no strength. It's not limited to working in a factory, but having a previous job as a gang member is not an advantage. I started studying for certifications to improve my skills, plus to get a promotion if I was lucky. Actually, certifications related to factory work are government certifications. They are, so to speak, certifications recognized by the government. For example, a hazardous material handler certification. It certifies that the applicant has knowledge of the relevant hazardous materials and can handle them properly. Others include forklift driving skills and crane operators. I found an article on the internet that some companies will pay for employees to obtain certifications if they wish to do so. But me, I'm in my 30s and have no advantages. I'm just a part-time worker. First of all, it is important that a company is willing to hire me. And for that to happen, I figured I'd have to have at least the minimum certifications. And through the work at the factory, I successfully reintegrated into society. After a few years later, at last, I was able to live a normal life as a member of society. I felt like I was finally accepted by society. Then I had a fateful encounter with a certain woman. I fell in love with her smile from the first moment I saw her. This would be what is called love at first sight. One day, after work, I stopped by the convenience store where she works and gave her my phone number. I was looking forward to hearing from her. At first glance, it seemed like a pickup, but I took the liberty of thinking it was fate. Then she contacted me and we started dating. Lo and behold, we got into a relationship and 6 months later I told her how I felt. I asked her to marry me. She seemed to be very, very surprised by my proposal. But she accepted my confession with a smile. From now on I want to live my life as your wife, Tom. This was her response to my proposal. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was the happiest day in my life. After we got married, my wife and I lived a lovey-dovey life. The two of us traveled to many places together and made many memories. When I was making a living as a gang member, I never thought I would get married. I learned the hard way that life is fun because you never know what will happen. But our happy life gradually began to go off the rails. I was 34 years old when I got married. In contrast, my wife was 32, and she had a dream of having a baby. If a woman misses her childbearing period, it will be difficult for her to give birth. My wife was worried about that. After discussing about it, we finally started trying to have a baby. But it was not working well. That's why we stopped having physical relationships, and we gradually stopped talking about trying for a baby. If I had been more serious in our discussions at this time, maybe our future would have been different. However, it was also a difficult time for me at work, and we were having fewer conversations as a couple. The negative cycle continued, and my wife's playful habits began to worsen around this time. My wife used to go out with her friends a few times a month, but the frequency of these outings increased and she started going out several times a week. I wish she was surrounded by good friends, but to my surprise, she always goes out for fun at night. And she would only return when it's already morning. I don't think it is normal for a wife to have a night out and come home in the morning. Basically, my job allows me to go home after 8 p.m. most nights. There is not much overtime work, so I have no complaints in terms of working style. I come home from work and spend time at home with my beloved wife. How happy would I be if I could do that? It was while talking about home with someone at work. I had asked for his opinion on my wife going out at night and coming home in the morning. Then everyone at work started talking and told me that they thought she was cheating on me. I didn't want to think that my wife was cheating on me. But I couldn't even say for sure that she wasn't having an affair. My wife and I only became that way when our inability to have a baby began to take a toll on us. Of course, I felt responsible. Moreover, I had used work as an excuse for not wanting to discuss the issue. So I made up my mind. We needed to have a serious discussion about this during our next vacation. And then my wife's behavior escalated into a major incident. A few days later, a holiday. I had decided to have a serious discussion with my wife about fertility. I also researched on the internet how to cope with the fact that I could not conceive. I also made a list of reputable OB/GYNs in the neighborhood. I wanted to help my wife. But it was already too late for me to act. I truly believe that if I had been a little quicker in taking action, things would be different now.
Listen, there are people coming over to our house now. They want to talk to you, Tom.
I was watching TV and my wife started talking to me. I had a bad feeling. I was wondering if my parents-in-law would come over and give me some kind of lecture. But if they were to do so, I had to listen to them. One of the reasons I made my wife so sad was because of myself. Okay. About 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I fearfully opened the front door. How do I explain this to them? But my prediction was wrong. It was not my parents-in-law standing there. Instead, it was a man with a scary-looking sunglasses. There were a few macho men standing around him.
Thank you for coming all the way out here. Come on in and let's talk.
My wife invited them in from behind me. I don't know much about my wife's friendships. But it was clear she was on good terms with them. I developed a distrust of my wife. My wife led them into the living room and they sat down. Then, Leon, the man who wore sunglasses, opened his mouth.
You know what? Stop hanging out with my girls.
I could not understand a word Leon was saying. What? Who's your girl? Leon pointed at my wife.
She's my girl.
My thinking stopped. What the hell was he saying regarding my wife? My wife and I are married. I'm married to my wife. I think you made a mistake. He and everyone there started laughing at my statement.
You don't know who we are. Have you ever heard of the gang? We're actually gang members, and around here, we have no opponents.
I knew immediately that Leon's words were a lie. Because I am a former gang member myself. As a general rule, the gang members do not identify themselves as such. It is against the rules of the gang world to call oneself a gang member to the general public. Recently, it has gotten tougher on us gang members. The gang can't operate in the open, and above all, a threat is a one-shot deal. It is quite possible to be caught for making threats. There is no benefit in threatening the public using the name of the gang. And we don't do that simply because of a love affair.
You got a problem with me? You're going to have to pay the price. We are very annoyed with you, but we can forgive you if you pay the price.
I sensed that this was going to be interesting, so I deliberately acted scared. I can't pay you, you're just threatening me.
You don't know anything about the gang. I'm not threatening you, I'm asking you. Do you know what I mean?
Then Leon took off his sunglasses and glared at me. They must be thugs who think they are gang members.
My girl, she's got a big beef with you. You're not giving her what she wants. She wants to have a baby. So I'll make her wish come true.
From what I've heard, I'm pretty sure that Leon had an affair with my wife. I finally asked Leon a certain question. By the way, what's the name of this gang group? Leon mentioned the name of the group I used to belong to. I've obtained the evidence. So much for fun, I guess. If you're a gang member, I don't need to hold back. I whispered.
What? You're fighting against the gang. I'll make it impossible for you to live in this town.
I took a new breath and braced myself. Since you've come into my house and threatened me, I don't know what will happen to you guys. I wonder if it's a crime of intimidation. Or will you be caught by the law? Well, I don't know what the gang members will do to you before anyone can say anything about the law. Leon had been so vigorous up to then, but his expression changed the moment he heard my comment.
What are you talking about?
It means you're going to have to pay the price. I took a certain action to show them hell. With Leon and the others in front of me, I made a phone call to someone. It was my father, the head of the gang clan that Leon mentioned earlier. Dad, I need to talk to you. Take some of the young ones and come to my house. I told my father this and hung up the phone. The boss says he's on his way over. Their faces got pale.
Oh, hey, you said Dad.
I'm glad you heard me right. Yes, just as you imagine. I smiled at Leon with a sly grin.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just an impulse.
It doesn't matter if you say sorry to me. The next thing I knew, Leon was crying. Then, he got down on his knees in front of me.
Please forgive me. I just wanted to be with Emmy.
It's okay, I'm glad that you understand. I'm not mad at you. He looked at me with tears in his eyes.
Really? Thank you. I'll never forget this favor.
What a stupid man. I never thought my wife would fall for such a man, and even I was ashamed of myself. What about your infidelity?
Of course, I will pay compensation.
I smiled at Leon. Thank you, that's good to know. Leon, perhaps contemplating the situation, tried to leave with his friends. Hey, where are you going? My dad and the boys are coming over right now, okay? Leon again showed a look of despair.
What? You said if I pay you now, you'll forgive me.
Yeah, about cheating. The confused look on Leon's face was truly amusing. No, you used the name of our organization without permission. You have to pay for that. And you also threatened me. The next thing I knew, my home chime rang. Looks like the real gang has arrived. I went to the front door and asked my father to come inside the house. These are the guys who were using our gang name without permission. The next thing I knew, Leon said something I couldn't believe.
We didn't say that. He has no proof.
Leon started lying to protect himself.
Tom, is that so?
I took a deep breath and pulled something out of my pocket. I recorded what you just said with my cell phone. Since you came to my house out of the blue, I couldn't prepare a voice recorder, so I'm a little nervous about the audio, but I'm sure it will be good evidence. Now, shall we all listen? The moment I said that, Leon collapsed to his knees.
I am very sorry.
My father approached Leon, who was on his knees.
You'll have to pay the price. We are annoyed. We're not threatening you, we're asking you nicely.
The next moment, my father signaled to the gang members to take them somewhere. Take that woman with you. She's been on a roll. I had the gang members take my wife with them.
Tom, we're married, aren't we? You'll understand if we talk.
I ignored everything my wife said. The one who did not understand this situation the most was probably my wife. I had told her before we got married that I had been a gang member in the past. Back then she said to me, the past doesn't matter. I was so happy to hear that. Incidentally, I had not told my wife that my father was the gang boss. So, the gang members took Leon and my wife.
Long time no see. How's your business?
I'm sorry for bothering you. If those guys were to use the gang's name and go on a rampage outside, it would be a nuisance to you and the others. My father smiled at me kindly.
As expected of you. You had the wit to record it on your cell phone.
Then I confessed of having lied. Actually, I didn't record it with my cell phone. So, there is no evidence that Leon was using the gang name. Well, he himself admitted it, thankfully. The recording I made is about my wife's affair with him, and the story about him paying compensation for his affair to me.
You are as bold as ever.
My father said so and left my house. My house, which had been noisy until then, became quiet at once. A few days later, I received a call on my cell phone from my father. It was about the alimony for the affair and divorce with my wife.
If you need anything else, I'm happy to fill in the blanks.
Initially, I had planned to hire a lawyer myself and make claims against them. However, since the process was quite tedious, I decided to go along with my father. After that, I don't know what happened to the self-proclaimed gang group, including Leon, and my wife's present situation. From my past experience, they will be put to work menial jobs by the real gang. I, on the other hand, got promoted. My usual work ethic and certifications were rewarded. I was very happy to feel that my efforts had paid off. I would like to continue to take my work seriously.